Any and all bank records for any account in which you directed deposit of loan proceeds where you were a borrower within the last 5 years.
I think that would be above there.
In here, in the box. Any and all documents, including but not limited to closing statements, leases, rent records, legal matters, and property taxes relating to real property in which you held a legal or beneficial interest in the last 6 years.
All my records were left at the residence when I moved out and would be in my ex-wife's possession.
So you don't have any of those records?
I do not.
And those records are not under your direction or control with attorneys or accountants or anything like that, correct?
That is correct.
Any and all documents, records, checks, deposit records, correspondence relating to distributions to you or your account from any trust.
I have none.
Any and all documents, statements, invoices other than those prepared exclusively by you which were provided to your attorney in this case prior to filing thereof.
I believe the only thing was the notice of default on Malone, and I did not bring a copy of that.
Any and all communication, correspondence, notes, memoranda relating to or from between you and or Jasper Jameson, Chelsea Jameson, and 2750 Laguna Road, Santa Rosa, California.
There are none. Mr. Jameson made an offer on Malone Road, not Laguna Road.
Okay. Any and all communications, correspondence, notes, and memoranda relating to, from, or between you and or Craig Yarborough.
There are none. I do not know who he is.
Any and all communications, correspondence, notes, memoranda relating to, from, or between you and or Jacob Johnson.
There are none. Again, I do not know who he is.
Any and all financial statements made or given by you within the last 3 years.
I have none. Any existing ones were left at the Malone Road residence and are now in my ex-wife's possession.
Any and all loan applications made on your behalf or on behalf of you and Shannon Falk within the last 3 years.
I have none. Any of those would either be at the residence in my ex-wife's possession or with the lender.
Any and all wills, trusts, other similar instruments to which you are settlor, trustor, trustee, beneficiary, and or contingent beneficiary.
I have none. Copies are either in wife's possession at the Malone residence or with the preparer, unless you're referring to the Marital Trust, which you already have.
Contents of Wells Fargo Downtown Branch Safe Deposit Box and names of Michael and or Michael Falk / Misha.
I could not, there's nothing of any value or interest in that safety deposit box, and I believe when Shannon stole checks from my car, she also took the key to that, because I do not have the key to that. So I could not get into that.
Any and all documents, records, account records, books of account for Misha.
There are none, or they are in my ex-wife's possession at Malone Road residence, because she is the one who continues to sell antiques, collectibles, and whatever else, not I.
Any and all communications from or to Rod Dickerson, including but not limited to documents for the last 3 years.
There are none. Again, I have no idea who he is. Wasn't he a running back for the LA Rams?
That was Eric Dickerson. So what I have here, together with the, I don't know where it went, the trust itself. You have the trust. Do you have that trust document? You do. It's the last one to your right, bottom. No. Keep going. It's down. Yeah, right there. Okay. These documents right here, I'll set up for us, are the documents you're producing pursuant to this subpoena, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if we go off the record, let me go through these and then we'll reconvene and go over them together, okay?
We need it not just for Texas, but we're also going to be talking about some
Mr. Falk, we're just resuming after our break. You you're still under oath, you understand that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, do you have any stock accounts?
Oh, do you?
You have an account with Smith Barney?
I do not.
Have you ever had an account with Smith Barney?
I have.
Did you close it?
I did.
When?
I don't know the exact date.
More than a year ago?
Absolutely.
More than 2 years ago?
Yes.
More than 3 years ago?
Yes.
More than 4 years ago?
Yes.
You closed it before you separated from Ms. Fall?
Yes.
Why?
I believe we took the proceeds from the stock account. I believe we took the proceeds. We sold that to buy our Malone Road house.
Do you own any property on Fott Road?
I do not.
Have you ever owned any property on Fott Road?
I have not.
Have you ever owned an equitable interest in any property on Fott Road?
I have not.
You have an unrecorded interest on property on Fott Road?
I do not.
Do you have an interest in any entity that owns property on Fott Road?
I do not.
Do you have any beneficial interest in any loans secured by property on Fott Road?
I do not.
Have you ever?
I have never.
Okay. Now, the income tax returns that you've supplied to me for '04 and '05 appeared to have been prepared just this
Hot off the
about
press.
8 or 9 days ago. Is that right?
They were copied 8 or 9 days ago.
And when were they actually filed?
Whatever date is on there,
There isn't a date on there.
then I would know.
The letters,
I know we usually file in October. Usually extend our return to October.
Okay. Now the K1s that are shown here I'm looking at the '05 return from New York are in the name of Shannon and Michael Fall. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
correct?
I do not believe so.
Yep.
Excuse me?
I do not believe so.
Well, could you show me whose name they're issued in?
Let's see. There we go. Let's look at New York now. There we go.
Are you talking about the California K1 reconciliation worksheet?
No, I'm talking about the K1 from New York.
Are you talking about the estimated income tax payment voucher for individuals from New York State? That is in my name only.
What I was looking for is I was looking for the actual K1, the one I specified in the subpoena, and I don't see the actual K1 in there. I see a worksheet on the K1, but I don't see the K1. Did you ask your accountant to provide the K1?
I asked him for my tax returns.
in asking for the K1?
I imagine they would have been in here.
I don't see it.
Okay.
What is 10 West 33rd
Ah,
joint venture?
what is
That is
that?
an office building where my father had a business and he bought a 3% interest.
Your mommy bought it.
Is that one of these limited partnerships we're talking about?
Yes, that was passed on to me.
All right, well, we'll come back to that because we need the K1s. The records,
The estimated income here would be the bottom line from the K1s, wouldn't it?
I think you're jumping to conclusions.
And if you were looking for whose name they were held in, you would see that that's what it says, is my name alone.
Well, that's what the estimated income tax voucher says, that you produced. I will grant you that, but I don't think that's determinative of much. Let's go back to the marital trust. And are these copies that you produced for me? I mean, you don't need the back, do you?
Right.
Excuse me?
That's correct.
Okay. Could we mark this as debtors 1, I guess? All right. Mr. Falk, I'm handing you what has been marked as Exhibit 1 for the purpose of this examination. That's not part of it. Well, wait a minute. That's right. That's it. You're right. Sorry. Could you take a look at Exhibit A to that document, the last page? And that Exhibit A was on there when you signed it, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Number 1, real property and improvements located at 7,000 Malone Road. That's the family residence, correct? Do you know if a deed was executed deeding that property to the marital trust?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Number 2, real property at 441 Tracy. Was a deed executed to that, deeding it to the marital trust?
I'm not sure.
Now, this Exhibit A are all the properties that were intended to be transferred to the marital trust, correct?
That's correct.
And do you have any information, as we sit here today, that any of these assets listed on Exhibit A were not transferred to the marital trust?
No.
Were all of these assets listed on Exhibit A transferred to the marital trust?
That's what it says here.
Is that your understanding?
It is.
Is that your understanding at the time you executed this document, Exhibit 1?
I believe it was, yes.
And are all of these assets listed on Exhibit A under the heading Community Property transferred to the trust? Are all of those assets community property?
No, they're not.
Why did you sign the document that says they are?
I cannot answer that.
Real property on Laguna Road, was that transferred to the trust?
I believe it was.
Number 4, real property located on McBride Lane, was that transferred to the trust?
Yes, it was.
Secured promissory note deeded trust by Chris Johnson, was that transferred to the trust?
I believe it was.
New York Limited Partnerships, were those transferred to the trust?
Yes.
Now, are those limited partnerships the same ones we've been talking about that produce the income? Are they called Adams Company?
Adams Company is a management company.
Who at Adams Company handles your accounting?
I don't have any individual there.
Do you know any individuals that work at Adams Company?
No.
Do you have a phone number for Adams Company?
No. I'm sure you could get it from the phone book.
Is it just a management company, or is that the general partner?
I have no idea.
Who's the general partner of the limited partnership?
I have no idea.
Okay, then the next one. Shannon FALK'S interest under the Willits Children 1991 Irrevocable Trust. Was that transferred to the family trust?
Apparently.
Number 8, ownership interest in Willits LLC, an Oregon limited liability company. Was that transferred to the trust?
Apparently, according to this document.
Limited partnership interest in Feather River Cinemas LP. Was that transferred to the trust?
According to this document.
You say according to the document, and you seem to be hedging on what the document says. The document says, does it not, that each one of those items has been transferred to the trust?
Yes, it does.
The document says, does it not, that each one of those items is community property transferred to the trust? Could you answer the question?
What was the question?
Can you read it back, please?
The document says, does it not, that it's community property transferred to the trust?
The document says that.
Number 10, life insurance on grantor Michael T. Falk in the face amount of $75,000. Was there such a policy in existence?
I imagine there was.
And who was the insurer?
New York Life.
Is that policy still in existence?
It is.
Who's the beneficiary?
I believe it. I'm not sure. I believe it's still my ex-wife. I believe I was unable to change that under the provisions of the family law court. But I'm not positive to that. I may have changed it to my children.
And was that policy transferred to the trust?
According to this document.
Okay. They say according to the document. It's the document you signed, correct?
Right.
And what parts of this document, if any, when you signed it, didn't you intend to be the result of signing the document?
There was none that I didn't intend.
Okay, so you intended all of the effects that this document has, correct? Okay, and were you advised on the execution of the document, what this document meant?
I believe I was.
And who advised you?
It would have been Mr. Disharoon.
Okay. And Mr. Disharoon represents who?
He would represent Shannon and myself.
Okay. And what did Mr. Disharoon advise you that the results of executing this document would be?
Yes, what did he?
Said that our children would be protected.
Oh,
What did he advise you with respect to characterization of property?
He said that it is not character. I don't remember.
Did he make any statements to you regarding characterization, the effect on characterization of property in writing?
I do not believe so.
Did you instruct the limited partnerships?
I believe it says here, though, that any property transferred to or withdrawn from the trust shall retain its character as community or separate property. So it was my separate property when it went in. So my understanding is that it was my separate property when it came out.
oh, it hasn't come out yet, baby. But that's coming. Don't you worry.
Have you ever asked Mr. Disharoon to give an opinion as to the effect of the characterization of the property when it came out?
He never gave an exact declaration to me of that. My understanding from my conversations with him were that if it went in as separate, it could come out as separate.
Okay. Well, Exhibit A says that it's community property transferred to the trust.
That's what it says there.
So that means that it was community property in existence at the day that...
That's not my understanding.
Well, that's what the words say in the English, and they mean in the context of the English language, do they not?
Doesn't mean they were ever transferred to community property. Just because they were called community property on that page does not make them community property, in my understanding. But without having a lawyer present, I would not be able to really, give you...
I just want your testimony.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm giving you.
Now, you provided another document. We can have that marked as Exhibit 2. And here's the one that's marked. Exhibit 2 is entitled Revocation of Michael P. and Shannon M. Falk Marital Trust.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that work
Now,
out?
who prepared that?
I would believe it would have been my family law attorney.
At your direction?
Yes?
And is that intended to be a revocation pursuant to paragraph E of Article 1 of Exhibit 1?
That's what it says.
Now, did Shannon Falk sign the 2006 income tax returns?
Did she?
I do not know that.
Did you ever see her sign them?
Excuse me?
You ever see her sign them?
I could not answer that. I do not remember.
Were any other documents executed that relate to the limited partnership and the transfer thereof to the trust?
No.
Was the general partner ever put on notice of the transfer to the trust?
No.
Have you ever
Not to my knowledge, I should say.
Have you ever owned any real property in Healdsburg?
I did.
What's the address?
I don't know.
When did you purchase it?
Purchased it in 1973.
And when did you sell it?
In 1987.
Since you were married to Miss Falk, have you owned any property in Healdsburg?
I have not.